Jan, how's it been in lockdown for you? I mean, it's all been very peculiar, hasn't it?
It has been very peculiar, but it's great to be in a gallery and looking at real art.
I know.
It's been so nice seeing you.
I know.
Doing your Facebook.
We did a couple of Zooms that we did have the Zoom thing that we did with Jill. That was great. And
but seeing people in person, there's no substitute for it.
I know.
I know we've got to sort of stand a bit apart from all that. I'm not too bothered about the hugging thing, by the way. I don't. You know that you're not allowed to hug people.
Yeah, you are hugging. You're not hugging.
No. I mean, I think that's quite Scottish. You didn't hug when I was growing up, Becky. That's
actually, do you know, quite a few people have said that to me. They're not that bothered about it. So, you know, I think we're just going to get used to doing. I don't like the elbow thing. I think the elbow thing's a bit.
That's overrated.
But you know, there we go.
But that whole kiss thing.
Yeah. No, I know. So today we're going to look at some graduates that you and I talked about this a while ago. As soon as we knew, obviously, we wouldn't be able to go into the graduate shows. I mean, it's just been very odd, obviously, because what do you normally expect when you go to the graduate show?
Well, a graduate show, degree show is a lot of expectation.
Yeah.
You know, and I usually go before it opens, so there's sort of, you know, still things been painted on the floor,
Yeah.
or you know, there's personal statements kicking about from
Yeah.
the assessors.
We'll get onto the personal statement.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you know, it's maybe not as tidy as it normally is when you go through it as a ordinary degree show, because last minute things have been done. But I always find it very overwhelming, no matter where I am. You know, at Glasgow there's got a lot of graduates,
Yeah.
so there's always a lot to see. Dundee, not as many, but there's still.
But the building's really tricky.
It's quite tricky.
Oh, you come out and you think, I've actually missed all those places upstairs, and there's somebody's work that I haven't seen because I couldn't find that particular
Yes, there's
studio.
so many nooks and crannies. I mean, I love Duncan Jordanson's a great building.
Yeah.
You know, the light comes in and all these corridors with the plaster casts and everything. It's great. Grays is a treat because it's so small.
Oh, and it's
love it in
organised.
Aberdeen.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
good. Edinburgh, I mean, it's great to be in that building. It's you know, Edinburgh College of Art's a great building. So, but I mean, I tend to look at the fine art. That's my sort of brief, rather than looking across the board at the jewellery and product design and so on. But I mean, there's just so much to see.
There's so much to see, and I guess what I've missed is that smell when you go in, and the sort of excitement and the buzz of walking into some of the studios and going, I have no idea what's going on here. So you get that element of surprise, and then you also get the kind of little gem and you think, oh my God, that's amazing. You know, I want to try and sell that, I want to see that person develop.
It's almost like overload, because you know, you're kind of, if you're anything like me, you're sort of taking it all in. It's this sensory visual overload, and you just are kind of, you know, at the end of a day when I've been to a degree show, I'm exhausted, wiped out, because I'm thinking so much, and but I'm taking it in and seeing and hearing, because a lot of the time you're going around and it's like an echoey building like this maybe, but you've got these videos or sound installations that are kind of then going into an earworm in your ear. So it's a very sensitive experience. Degree show contrast to this year.
Which has just been very, I think when we were talking about it earlier, it's made it very equal. And we'll talk about that a bit as we walk down, because I think sometimes you don't see certain artists, you just kind of, they're not screaming out at you, and you sort of miss the quiet people. And I think what it does when you go online, it's very equal. Everyone has a page, you can see the work clearly.
That's right.
You get to read the wonderful personal statements, which I know you have a bit of a bugbear. I have a bit of a bugbear, I mean, let's face it. We were 21 months, but I don't know, I don't remember writing some of that stuff, and you know,
I think we've just kind of like, there's all sorts of things online, arty bollocks that you can do. Feed all these words in, and it comes out in a big kind of, you know, I don't know, spiel of nonsense really. But it's a bit of a bugbear. That is one of the things on, for example, the Glasgow School of Art website. My eye was drawn to the statements first rather than the art.
which is not right.
Which is, your eye really should go to the art. But the good thing about the online showcase is you can go back, and you know, you don't need to do it in one sitting. I suppose this year I did do it over 2 days because I was writing about it, but that's not a natural way to do it. I think it's much more natural to maybe hear about an artist as well, or find them.
Well, like you and I often talk beforehand, and you'll say, look out for someone, and I'll go online. Like Lindsay Lavender, I didn't know her work, and you know, which is Yeah, I think it's more kind of word of mouth as well sometimes.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's kind of important.
Yeah, but I feel for the students this year because it's not just about the work going on the wall or on the floor or whatever. It's about an occasion. It's a sense
well, they don't get the buzz. They don't get the buzz. So let's have a look at our first student. So it's not a definitive thing. I mean, basically, Jan and I chatted, didn't we? You chose some people, I chose some people. We didn't really look at Edinburgh that much. We didn't really look at Aberdeen that much. Well, I didn't. So, we just would have had too many students. And also, some of the students couldn't even get their work, which is like, we didn't feel for them.
Yeah.
So our first person is Alice Banforth. Very interesting work. He starts with a drawing, then goes into a monoprint, and then makes an etching. And these were all based on the Scottish Ballet's The Crucible. I was really struck by these, Jan. What did you? I mean,
no, they really leapt out from the digital format which I saw them in. Obviously, it's so nice to see them now in the actual flesh. As
yeah,
it were.
I think they've got a very lyrical. Well, I wrote down, and I said to you I was going to write down. So I wrote down Gothic, lyrical, and layers. And I think they've got that wonderful movement in them, especially like this piece here. And yeah, quite sort of eerie, as you'd expect.
Yeah, and they've got writing into them, so you got interested in. Well, The Crucible is about set in the Salem witch trial, so it sort of has a resonance to many different eras subsequently, including McCarthyism.
Yeah, well, I think that's Alistair is interested in religious and political themes, so. And a little bit of folklore as well, which I think you can see coming.
But it's quite relevant at the moment, It's the kind of thing that comes round, isn't it? So it's very, very human work actually, and the figures are gorgeous because he's got these, like this kind of beautiful arc coming round here. And
I love the way he's put them together and he's created those shapes. And we were talking about ballet being quite in, but it feels balletic, but in a quite cool way rather than a fussy.
I think artists are drawn to ballet for a number of reasons, but obviously the figures. I think the dancers are sort of putting themselves into these impossible shapes.
Yes.
So they're kind of a challenge for an artist, but also a dream at the same time. But they're very atmospheric. With this crucifix.
And actually, I think you'd probably want 2 or 3 together. I mean, one would be powerful, but I think they would work. These are the framed version, so they are $275, which I think is a pretty good price. He's got a series of 11, and I think he's only doing 25 of each, and framed up they're $275. But I think in a line or in a block like that, they look really powerful.
I mean, this has got the text of the trials.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Which is very interesting. And there's a real feeling that comes from them, actually. There's a darkness, but partly because they're mono, black and white, but there's a sort of a sense of foreboding about them.
Yes, there is. That one I added because that one had the text and this one didn't, so you can actually buy them with or without the text. I'm not sure, I like the text on some of them, but I quite like the clarity of some of the ones that don't have the text.
Yeah.
So moving around to Anna Louise Mulvana. She's a printmaker and a painter, and she uses collage and puts together these random ideas where we can see, and she really wants the viewer to sort of dart around the canvas. Which actually she's done very well, especially on a piece like this. And then she'll put in things like Botticelli's Birth of Venus, these just wonderful images.
In a sort of 1960s, but retro kind of.
Yeah. Well, I put psychedelia, 60s and colour. She's obviously interested in Dali, surrealism, and she uses a great range of techniques and colours and patterns, actually, and just puts them together. I mean, this is a fantastic piece here. So we're going to encourage Anna to do some prints of these as well, because I think that's a great idea. These pieces are sort of coming in at about, I think, 600. This one's the 1550, but I think these smaller ones she could do a limited edition, and I think that would be quite exciting.
I mean, the detail's lovely, isn't it? There's kind of these yellow
Yeah.
here and the panels.
And these sort of random things, and I love this woman's arm here,
Yes.
and then her face there, and you know, it's just completely random.
And even up there with the little eye.
Yeah.
Denali-esque sort of eye. But she's got a great sense of pattern and texture, you know, really is.
Well, it's all very sellable. It's very sellable. And in fact, as we move around, we'll be discussing that whole thing. It's kind of interesting because in years gone by, I found it quite difficult sometimes to get what we call
wall-based
work. We did say what is, i.e. not conceptual work that you can actually say to a student, I love that, I can show that in the gallery, and it's ready to go.
I mean, not all degree shows are filled with wall-based work.
No.
I mean, the wall-based work, shout out to my friend Gail Anderson, who will find it hysterical because I first used it to her when we went round the Duncan Jordanson degree show, and she went, wall-based? What's wall-based? On the wall, rather than on the floor.
Yeah. Well, some years, I don't know any, I'm obviously looking at it as a gallerist, so therefore I'm kind of going in, and I love seeing the wacky. You want to see these students pushing the boundaries. No one's doing anything new particularly, but you really want to see something completely off the wall. But I know I can't sell 90% of that. I really need to have work like this that comes out, that you think, that's interesting, there's pattern, there's form, there's technique. You know, I hate to say it, sometimes they've gone in and you kind of go, can they paint, can they draw?
Some good technique going on there, and some, you know, organisation, even though it seems maybe as if it's not, it is, it's very sort of organised.
It's sort of organised chaos, isn't it? Which I quite like.
I mean, this little chair, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
But it's
and
so different.
And the false teeth here.
Oh, it's a garden, like, it's excellent. I mean, if you were living with that, you would see something different every day.
Yeah.
I mean, the window, the psychedelia kind of through the curtains. It's very a contrast to Alison, I mean, the black
completely,
and white.
yeah.
Then you go to this colour palette that's bouncing off the walls, literally, you know. But that's great when you get that in contrast. I mean, I remember saying, I think I mentioned to you, Rachel McLean, who subsequently gone through the roof, you know, all the Densbin and Alley and Tate, still really young. I saw her degree show, I think it was 2008 at Edinburgh, and
you just knew that.
just went, whoa, you know, because it was kitsch, but a sort of Scottish version of a, you know, very kitschy kind of playground kind of circus thing going on. It was just nuts. But I remember thinking,
it's like Jenny Saville, you know, seeing her at work, and you just know that you've kind of hit on something completely different.
Yeah, it's great when you see that, and you know, you get your sort of heart starts to race a little bit, you know, because it's so exciting.
So now we have Lauren, and Lauren Ferguson is from Grays, and I wrote for her grounded textural homespun, which was my first thought.
It's very domestic, isn't it?
It is, and she works in very different mediums and likes the contrasting of the simplicity with the use of wire and then texture, and she's concerned with like a sense of space and architectural objects. Mostly places she has a personal connection, so this is all to do with Collington, which is where she has stayed.
Again, you know, writing on to the canvas. This seems to be a thing.
Yeah.
This year,
It could be a thing, Jan.
It is a thing, but maybe it's to do with this of the fact that writing is not something we routinely do now, particularly younger people.
And maybe it's an artist. It's actually, we've got it with Christian's work, which we'll see in a minute. It's kind of interesting that they're putting the writing on, because maybe that's an artistic.
Yeah, and there is a real
style.
feeling of making things. I mean, that's got sort of wire in it.
Yeah.
Actual sort of wire on the canvas, and they're so little. But they're lovely little things, you know.
Yeah.
Sort of,
Well, you could have 2 or 3 of them, and initially I thought you couldn't just mix and match, but I think you could. And I like the different finishes as well, where she's got like a satin finish, and then some are very textured. And she's also concerned with making something, or drawing attention to things that are ordinary and usually insignificant, like garden gates, like a pattern on a wall.
and this, I mean, is a fountain? Is this
Well, actually, she'd had a drawing of that. I think it's like, is it a curling stone? Oh, it's a pill.
Mill.
A mill. A millstone.
Millstone.
Jan.
Well, this is art.
See,
You know?
we're not very good, are we?
You just have to kind of work it out.
Thanks, Teresa.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is a piece of hers that actually we couldn't get to the framer, or Lauren couldn't get to the framer, and it's a garden swing, and it was a nice title, something about when she's left home, when you've gone away, which is sort of quite nostalgic. But I kind of think the whole rope thing is interesting, and Alison Wattie with her, you know, twisted bits of silk.
Kind of representing a person almost. It's like figurative, isn't it?
Yeah.
When I think an inanimate object becomes a person.
Yes. And it's quite sensual or quite...
yeah, this detail down here is beautiful with the kind of fronds of the rope. Really is lovely.
But again, technically, you know, you might look at these and think, those are lovely, but you can see now that she's also technically very able. And it's exciting to see that, you know, because you know, sometimes you don't see that and you kind of think, again, are they actually being taught some of the very basic techniques?
Yeah, there's a kind of love of drawing in that, definitely.
Then we go into Christian. Now, these will be difficult for you to get, Teresa, but these are charcoal with pastel, and again, we've got little bits of text. Christian's a very philosophical approach to sort of laws of reality and existence. I put for him, when I first saw it, technical, expressive, confident, explosive. Because I think the way that he has constructed this, the marks that he's made are very powerful, and this could look incredible in the right place. I mean, it is a big piece.
And then these little kind of sort of soft interventions in what is a really hard subject to get your head around. So
because
you've got
again,
flowers,
there's little bits of text that you would see when you're up close.
notebooks and little kind of scorings of red pastel. Really, it looks beautiful actually. As well.
Funnily enough, I thought it was small. I don't know about you, but I did look at size, and when Christian came out, I was just bowled over. He likes doing big scale work, and I think he's, you know, incredibly talented. And he had those wonderful figures, didn't he, that we both loved.
Yeah, I picked that out.
And they had sold. So, I mean, you know, sometimes you kind of choose artists and their work, and then, of course, he's done really well. So, which is, you know, all power to him, you know, great. But hopefully we'll get some of
I
those.
mean, the subject matter is so powerful and particularly relevant.
Absolutely.
Today is, you know, BG Day, isn't it? 75 years since victory in Japan, rather. Yeah, it's very, very poignant.
Very rude.
Very rude, yeah.
That's the other piece as well. So another large-scale piece. Again, great composition. We've got the text again.
Going on and a different. It's not. He's done it in a different way in this one. He's sort of. With a chalk pencil.
Yeah, it will be. Little pastel.
Pastel pencil, but she's sort of, you know, another one he's sort of layered it in with notebook and pages from notebook.
Yes.
There's also little symbols as well, like dollars and some things. You've got to work it out. The flying saucer up there. So it's interesting what he's kind of knitting into the whole painting. Yeah.
But it's good just to have such a diverse range as well. I mean, we're very fortunate.
Is it though, you're going from the kind of black and white?
Yeah, black and white.
Beauty.
Yeah, and actually for students it's great to see some colour. Usually it isn't sort of fairly muddy. And so this is Chloe Duncan. And again, it's another, she's mixed media, she's using digital and printmaking skills, and she likes to juxtapose the digital and the physical. She's slightly autistic, which she said emphasises the colour and the light, and she's also interested in Creole folklore and revisiting our heritage, which I think we can see in some of the pieces. But I put filmatic, exotic, and I put layers. I think her colour coordinate, this is very subtle in the right place. This absolutely pops out, and then you've got this very subtle vista.
It's like it's kind of mimicking the eye as well, the iris, and you know, so it's like looking back at you.
Yeah.
I get that feeling. I also get a feeling of the gaming and gaming culture.
Yes,
you know,
actually, it's very sort of on trend, this one here is sort of almost like a Jurassic Park. I kind of see films when I'm looking, or film stills when I'm looking at her work. And I feel like we're walking through. There's always a kind of a walk through.
That's right. Vanishing point, isn't there?
We'll go through some prices for anyone that's interested, just because obviously the students want to sell some work, and some of them. So these, I think, are coming out at something. They're framed up, so the smaller ones are 140, and the bigger ones, which is like this one, is 310, which I think is really, a great price.
Yeah.
I like these two pieces, and she's got this thing as well of putting the grotesque with the beautiful, I think. And I hadn't really noticed, but when we looked at this one to start with, I just thought this was all part, and then suddenly you see this face.
Kind of flayed face.
But it was kind of almost hidden, wasn't it? But the colours are popping out.
It's a sort of dystopian garden or something.
Yes, yes. Very simple, very concise.
Yeah, it's very mature actually.
Yeah. Well, I think they're all quite mature. It's they're coming gallery ready. I don't think we've had that for quite a long time. And I think that the art schools have got to start helping them a bit more, because they're not really advising students in terms of pricing and how they approach German. How do you normally hear? Well, you just go to degree shows and.
Yeah, but I mean, I would think a lot of students, younger people, are not looking at newspapers so much, or so it's not quite the same as it was before. It's almost like we've got to find each other on Instagram or something. Lots of students they want to be reputable, so it's good.
Well, I think they always do. I think you can only promote yourself so much. You actually want someone else with some kind of worth to say something good about your work. So they want your words down about their work. That's important. That's never going to go. Our next student is Erid Gaskell. Now, Erid started studying, I think, in her third year, so she graduated this year, but she's already sort of established a price point, which is unusual.
What college is she?
She's at Dundee.
She's Dundee.
And she calls these dreamscapes. She spent a lot of time in Asia and Australia, and has sort of amalgamated that into the Scottish landscape, and she likes to put sort of translucent colour with opaque colour, flat, big pops of colour. What did I write for Erid? I wrote colour, pop, 3D, because I think some of these are quite interesting.
It's interesting that you say the Australian thing, because that's what I was initially thinking.
Were you?
They were, sort of, they had that.
Because they got sort of tribal
kind of feel about them, almost like from Australia. Yeah.
Well, I guess if you've kind of spent time there and you're kind of...
And that sort of high colour, kind of very...
Yeah, it's high colour.
Vivid, even in black, because it's black at night in the bush, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, she's not scared to just sort of like, this would be considered maybe against the rules, why we got this.
Well, yes, I mean, actually, that could annoy some people,
But then,
because actually these are quite bold shapes. But she's sold two with us already, so I guess there is appeal.
Well, they kind of is it like the white cottage, it's Scottish, but then it's got this bush curtain going on as well.
And our last is Maxine, and we all love her. I don't really know. I definitely would have missed Maxine if I hadn't seen her virtually, because I think possibly this was the amount of work she had. It's not a lot. You could easily walk past it. What did I write? Thoughtful, quiet, precise. She says she used these are all originals. We are going to encourage her to do prints of these, because these are £50.
They're just beautiful.
They should be much more. I'm not even sure I can sell them for that, Maxine. I think I might need to kind of put them up. But they're very present, and it's a sort of homage to a quieter life, which I just think is...
I mean, this one at the end is called, what's it? So, two
Look
birds
out.
social distancing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's lovely.
Which we're doing, Jan. Which we're doing. But she said sometimes she adds a shadow where there isn't one, and then she removes the detail she thinks it becomes too busy because she really wants it to be quite pared back.
I think, and it works. It's a real quiet confidence.
And
it's on this sugar paper,
Yeah,
and so it's quite absorbent. You know,
They're just really delightful.
this one here that Teresa's looking at is the shadow is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
You know, and then the bird, you kind of, it all leads up to that seagull at the top, and it's just right. Two little ducks, I love it.
I know. But you know, it's quite a diverse.
It's like human life in this little arrangement of 196.
Yeah, I know. Which we could have easily missed. So we've got one artist that we couldn't get. Actually, there's a couple, but I think we may get a little view of her. Katrina Fraser. So we're going to get Katrina's work in. So we'll do a little vid for her. But I just wanted to give her a shout out because it's just hard for them when they can't get in and get the work. You know.
That's good to see.
So all
and
these
also figurative because we've got art.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why. Yes.
Crucible. They're the only ones.
Yeah. So all these are on the website. Rough price points that I haven't given you. These of Lauren's are 55. I think probably 2 or 3 would look fantastic. Christian's big pieces are just over 2,000. Now, when we were talking about pricing, it's quite interesting because I did say to him, look, you know, you have to be aware that some artists have worked for years and, you know, should you be charging that? But he assured me that he had sold quite a few pieces at that price point, so who am I to argue with him? So it's quite difficult because they're not given any advice, so we're just kind of trying to keep it within a gauge, and if they've already sold at that price, we're happy to go with that. But but it is tricky.
It's
actually.
a very tricky thing. I think I've talked to a lot of artists about how to price your work.
Yeah. Okay, Erida's has set a price point, so her smaller pieces are 760 or something like that.
But that's sold as well, would it?
That big one sold, yes, today. You've got the red stickers and you've got green sticker, as did Lauren's rope. And this is sold as well by Anna's Molina. So, yeah. Well, Jan, that's been really excellent.
Yeah,
Nice to see, and you know, it's just good to sort of wander around together. We'll see what other people say. So thank you for coming. Teresa, thanks for doing all the keeping us sort of social distant. And as I say, they're all on the website. And if you want to DM me, then we can organise you to have a little more of a video if you need to see them in a close up. And dates for the diary. So we will keep this all here for the next 2 weeks, and then we're going to do our big summer show. So we've got about 150 paintings, pieces, prints, whatever coming in. So that will be coming in the next 10 days. And then the day after that, we are, fingers crossed, doing our big market outside with about 26 makers. With a kind of, I said to you, sort of a bit of a thoughtful, some, people working. What was that nice quote?
Oh, it's a great quote.
Oh, yeah, something like buy well, buy thoughtfully. That was it. Yes. So we've all been saving money, saving the planet a little bit during lockdown. So there are a few of our makers who upcycle. They're using sustainable products. So there's a little bit of a bent on that. It's all outside. So we will have the hand sanitizer. We will do all that, and so that should be fingers crossed.
Are there any nice masks? Face masks?
I've got face masks. Oh God, no, actually, do you know there are? Funny enough, we've got some from Cascade, but we need to probably get some more.
Some arty masks.
Some arty masks. So that'll be our thing. But listen, thanks for coming, Jan. That was absolutely brilliant.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you again soon.
Yes, enjoy.